I'm super glad to see also a lot of familiar faces here today. So thank you for all those who keep coming back to Reshaping Work events. And I believe that Whiigert and Jeroen really got us started on a right foot. Really impressive research that they're doing on a very important topic of data portability. But what's important is how platforms that collect this data and possess power to distribute it see actually data sharing. Why or why not do they think it's important? And what are some of the pioneering initiatives already in place? So I'm really happy to introduce you to three platform representatives that are going to be talking to us today. Maria Mingrone, project manager of Glovo Pro, so Glovo food delivery platform, among others, founded in Barcelona in 2015, now one of the leading players in the sector. Whiigert de Haan, co-founder of Roamler, and Roamler empowers businesses by providing flexible workforce. And Michael Bugaj, the CEO and co-founder of meploy, which is reimagining the way we see staffing industry. So welcome all of you. To get the audience to get to know you, I have an opening question for each one of you that doesn't have anything to do with data portability, but I'm wondering in 30 seconds, what is the business decision that you had to make in the past year and that you are the most proud of? Whiigert, how about you?
I think we made a lot of decisions, but I think one that I'm especially proud of is that we decided to deliver or to share a platform with healthcare organizations so they can make use of the platform themselves and empower their business themselves with it. And also they're able to use a hybrid model between flexible workforce and their own staff. And I think that's a really nice development.
Great, thanks, Whiigert. Michael, how about you? What's the decision you made in the past year that you're really proud of?
It would be the fact that we've opened up our platform for other entrepreneurs. So if you want to start your temp agency, or if you have a legacy agency, you don't really have access to the technology, you can actually build it upon our rails. So I think the transition from just kind of building our own platform to actually opening up our platform for other entrepreneurs and companies, and that way also giving workers more access to different types of jobs. So it's not just provided by us, but actually creating an ecosystem of jobs around with different companies.
Great, that's something to be proud of, definitely. How about you, Maria? What makes you proud?
I'm really proud that we in Glovo created a e-learning platform for couriers so they can access from all around the world to certain courses of different topics, so they can reinforce some skills or develop some new ones, and this in a way can help them achieve other jobs besides being a courier.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks, Maria. So to get us started in the discussion, something I'm wondering, also, building up on what Whiigert and Jeroen were talking about, is that all your industries are quite specific, and there are different things that count, and they make a star worker, they make a great performer. And also lots of these tasks are quite new, right? Delivering food using digital technologies. There are also some new skills that these workers are developing on the job. So I'm wondering, for your specific industry, what makes a star worker? What makes someone a good performer? So what are the actual metrics that you use? And how do you think these would be useful for other industries as potentially a next stepping stone for workers? If anyone would like to first take a floor, just feel free to unmute yourself. Whiigert.
Yeah, sure. So maybe it's good to know, for Roamler is a platform for well-described tasks. So every task that's in our platform is very well specified, so you know exactly what you need to do as a worker. And therefore, we are also able to check if the task has been done correctly.
Can you give an example of some, because you guys have high skilled and low skilled, can you give for the audience just an example of typical, most common tasks on Roamler?
Yeah, so we're active in multiple industries. One is retail, collecting data from stores and from out of home. Another is the installation technology branch, where we install smart thermostats, for example, at people's houses. And the third one is delivering healthcare, both in the mental care and in the home care industry, and also taking corona tests as well. So, for example, installing a smart thermostat is a task that is well described in our platform. So we know exactly what kind of skills someone needs, what kind of certifications you would need. And we check based on evidence if an installation has completed correctly. And for us and to us, a what we call Roamler is a good Roamler if we can approve all of those tasks that are sent in. We don't do a lot with reviews from our customers. Our customers are not able to choose the installer that comes by, because we believe that if you have the right skills and certifications to do a task, you're able to do them, and you can pick up the task yourself.
Wait, so do I understand right that your clients don't rate the work? They don't rate the Roamlers?
It happens sometime, but we don't actively do anything with it. So
how do you know if someone maybe arrived on time, had an appropriate chit-chat conversation during the job, or anything that goes with it? Yeah, so that's our platform checks and registers all of the steps that are taken. So we know if the KPIs are correct for a certain task. And if someone is not being nice to a customer, we'll know, because the customer will complain. But but the customer wouldn't really reach out to you, call you on the phone and complain. So it's not really digital. Yeah, and our customers. So for example, a large energy company, they might have a follow-up survey on our services as well. But we don't use this rating in order to exclude or include our own. Wow, that's super interesting. Maria, Michael, how about in your respective industries? What makes someone a star worker, a good performer, and what are the metrics you check?
Maria, start you.
Okay, thanks. In Glovo, what a courier is a star worker in a way. I think it's more related to users and ratings partners, because as mentioned before, in a way, it's more linked to trust. And in a way, that is our North Star in terms of metrics. And in a way, we think that the certificate displays a lot of information relevant for other industries or organizations hiring people or professionals, not only for our couriers, because in a way our couriers are professionals not only in the delivery service, but may also be in the in operations and in local commerce dynamics. So in a way, yeah, sorry.
No, I'm wondering, because you said that ratings for you play a big role, but Glovo, especially your food delivery part, is very specific because the product is provided by a third party, so it's provided by restaurants. So how do you separate if rating is actually a rating of a restaurant and cold meal or bad food, or actually relates to workers' performance?
Well, the thing is, users, when receiving an order, can rate not only the courier service, but also the partner service. So if food arrives, I don't know, there's a problem with the food itself, they rate the partner, and the bad rating in a way goes to the partner, not to the courier. And on the other hand, the ratings to courier are more related to if the product has been handled correctly, if the communication with the courier was okay, if he was polite, if he followed the instructions. So in a way, we track different things.
Okay, I see. And these metrics like ratings, that's obviously something that's very visible. How about non-visible skills, if you want. So how fast the worker has gotten to location, so the things that only you see. Do you keep track of those, and do you rate yourself workers internally?
I mean, we don't rate couriers in terms of their speed. Of course, we kind of know that, but that's not something we track couriers and in a way display this information to them, because we think that's not like super important for couriers to know. So yeah, basically that's it.
Thanks, Maria. And Michael, how about you? What makes a star worker in our industry? What are the metrics you guys are taking?
So so first of all, the type of industries we operate in. So we are basically a digital staffing agency. So what we look are most of our clients operate warehouses, distribution centers, manufacturing plants, or kind of industrial production. So there is something you can Google, which is called 10 skills that require zero talent. And that is being on time, work ethic, effort, body language, energy, attitude, passion, how you're coachable, are you doing the extra things, and are you prepared when you come to work? And those things, so we don't book people, we don't choose who goes to work. So the key metric for us is rebooking rate. So if a company booked you for a shift, will they book you again? And that is completely up to the worker. So for us, we can see that companies can post public ratings. They can post ratings for themselves as well, because some companies use maybe 100 different persons in their plant. So they need to know who are the most efficient ones, who are the ones that have learned certain skills or have learned and operate a specific machine. And that way they can organize their kind of flexible workforce they have through us.
Okay, so clients really select their workers based on the metrics you provide, which is different than Roamler, for instance, which just sends off workers.
And we don't provide much metrics, actually. We help the workers create a great profile, create a CV with their experience, write up their skills. And the way the workers apply is that they do an application. It takes just a minute to do it. But it goes quite fast, and that way they have to learn to sell themselves to the company. So it's just like being on a job interview in that sense, but everything is online. So from that perspective, we try to help the workers succeed on our platform, and try to give them the right tools to be able to have a long career with us if that's what they would like to. 20% of the workers that engage with companies through us actually get hired by the companies. So we're actually pretty good try and hire place in that sense.
I see. Great. Thanks, Michael. So something that puzzles me is all what you just described about these metrics. It's quite specific to your industry, and some things are really also quite specific to your platform. So even if you look at the similar other platforms, you really have a specific way that you assign tasks, that they meet the clients, so on. So I'm wondering, even if data sharing was a possibility, and we'll talk also about your initiatives later on, how applicable would that be? So for Glovo, for instance, well, a worker is getting very fast to the client or to the restaurant. For Roamler retail sector, they're taking great pictures of how Heineken is being stocked in supermarkets. How translatable is that to any other industry? And do you think that as platform leaders, you have responsibility to find out in which industries these skills would be applicable and to help workers transition in the next career step?
I think it is coming back to the fact that there's direct skills that you have, and then there's skills that are hard to communicate. That's what reviews are so interesting. When you read a review about a person online or on any platform, you look for other aspects than, or can they exactly do this type of thing? So, for example, is a person coachable is extremely important for everyone. Like, how do you take in the task? How do you learn? How do you take feedback? So I think platforms, what would make it interesting is if a platform can figure out how to translate the traditional kind of reviews, because it doesn't matter if you get 5 stars, as the research previously shown. If you get 5 stars on Uber, for me, that doesn't count for anything.
Exactly, and that's what I mean, yeah.
and you can't use that on meploy. But it could, for example, be that the person has received, there's a lot of positive mentions actually, or written reviews that saying that this person is very nice as a person, or very kind of communication skills are very high, for example, and have a nice attitude. I love to ride with this person again. That could be translatable into something that could actually bring a value into any type of work interview or any type of platform in the future.
Yeah, and I guess for meploy and for Roamler, where there is really personal kind of connection, maybe longer personal connection than in the food delivery, communication skills could be just an important aspect that could be very transferable, for instance. Maria, any thoughts on a Glovo, or what Glovers possess, the skills that they learn also on the job? Could it be transferable to another industry?
I mean, as I mentioned before, most of our couriers are delivering right now with our app, but we know that for some of them, and some of them are super in love with what they do. But for some others, this is like a temporary job, and this is something they are doing until they find something that suits their needs or their interests in other ways. So in a way, what we want to do is to, from Glovo, give them other tools for them to develop their future careers. And this certificate we have, in a way, acts as a facilitator for sharing this information with other employers.
And in your onboarding process, do you ask this question? Do you know if workers are there just for a short while to get extra income, or they're actually looking that as a stepping stone to the next career?
Well, I mean, that depends on the country we operate. We are in more than 20 countries, and profiles, queer profiles, are super diverse. In some countries, most of our queers are young people, students, so we know for a fact they are using Glovo to generate an income until they find a job more aligned to their studies. In some other countries, the profile is completely different, are super in love with the flexibility Glovo offers them. Some of them even resigned other jobs to deliver orders. So they don't want to move to other jobs. So that depends a lot on the country and the culture in which we operate.
Whiigert, did you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I like what Maria is saying. For us, it depends per sector in how long people will stay or use the platform. And although, and I think it's also interesting to know what kind of skills someone has, and I think sharing the data could, if the sharing the data could help them to take a next step, that's great, of course, and we're more than happy to facilitate it as well.
Yeah, great. And indeed, the reason why we invited specifically the three of you is that your companies are actually pioneering some data sharing practices, and I'd like an audience to get a peek into that. And for everyone watching this, please pose the questions in the chat, or also raise the hand so we can make this really interactive. But Maria, would you like to present us very quickly what Glovo is doing on data sharing and pioneering the certificate?
Yes, of course. Well, so basically what we do at Glovo is we have a project that we call Glovo Pro, which in a way aims to facilitate the portability of certain user metrics through the inclusion in a certificate. So in this way, our queers can count with this information that can support them in a qualitative and in a quantitative way in the search for other jobs. So basically what we do is we give them access to this kind of CV, which Martin showed previously. They can choose.
You want to share your screen and show us?
Yes, of course. So basically, this is, of course, a template. This is fake information. Here's like the long version in which you can see like personal information, contact information.
Could you zoom it in, Maria, please?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all fake. but they can introduce themselves, add their education or previous job experience. Also, if they speak, oh, sorry about the typo, other languages or like other person for them to contact. And of course, we include like global statistics that we think are quite useful for other people to look out when having like a job interview. And we also have the short version, which only includes global information. So of course, this information is provided by us as a company, and the personal information has to be included by the courier.
And I was wondering, like, is there some comparison? Because, for instance, I read for this fake profile, average delivery time, 10 minutes. But I don't know what that means. Does that mean he's doing very well or he's doing really poorly? Did you consider putting what the actual platform average is?
Well, yeah, I mean, like the information displayed under that metric gives kind of an idea of what the metric refers to, and gives kind of an idea on what is the average for couriers and for somebody reading that CV to know if that is something accurate or it's kind of in average.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Did you already, is this in use? Can Glovers already download this certificate?
Well, yeah, actually, this is a project that is live in some of our countries like Italy, Morocco, Ivory Coast, Georgia, and some others. We sent like this first communicating couriers about this initiative, and more than 35K couriers applied to this, were interested. They had to fill a form and then download the actual certificate, and we have almost 18% of the initial couriers impacted actually downloaded the certificate and used it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's super interesting to see also that after that, after the certificate is downloaded, we send out a survey like 2 months after that, asking them about the certificate, if they found it useful, if they used it already. And we got that feedback, and we already modified certain things in taking into account that suggestions. So in a way,
can you just share a couple of suggestions from workers? What was important for them?
Yeah, we included, for instance, the photo. At first, the old certificate didn't include it. We made it look kind of more professional. The first draft was more colorful and not like a CV, like a normal CV we actually use. So we redesigned it. We added like the personal description for them to include something more related to them and not just metrics.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those were some of their suggestions, and we already implemented them.
Great. How about you, Whiigert? So obviously Roamler is part of Gig CV. Where the motivation for that? Why do you think it's important?
Well, I think it's really important because, and I'm happy we joined the Gig CV project. I think it's someone's right to have the data to start with. And although, of course, we don't want to see the roamers go forever to another platform, I think it's in their best interest and in the best, and ultimately in our best interest to facilitate them if they want to leave. I'm super interested to see what figures Maria has got from their project, and if they are leaving forever. I think it's in the world we live in. We see roamers as persons who sometimes have the need for a temporary place where they can work. A lot of roamers, they like to do it on the side for their other work. Some they also use other platforms like the multi-home, like Jeroen mentioned. But I think most important is that for us, the really good people are hard to find. So for us, it's also a way to, how strange it might sound, it's also a way to attract people, to be open and to be fair to them. I think in the end, that's the best way to attract the roamers to our platform.
And we heard one of the audience members, Valeria Pulignano, who is a professor at KU Leuven, is wondering, do you discuss this process of data sharing with Roamlers? Are you engaging them in co-designing the models of data sharing and using?
Well, I wish, but that's something that has taken place through the efforts of Martijn. So he had surveys and he collected the data on what they expect. And I think it's really strong if we all have the same layout and the same model of export. So as the platforms that joined Martijn for the GigCV project, we all share the same layout and the same metrics that we share. So there's no point in asking our roamers what they like to see, because we comply with what Martijn is designing.
Okay, I see. Valeria, I hope that answers the questions. Let us know if there's any follow-up. Michael, how about within your organization? Are you thinking about data sharing? What are some of the thoughts you and your team are having?
So we have one thing that is, when you sign up, we kind of make it clear for you that your data, you own it. So first of all, the fact that if you want to get deleted, we ensure we delete all your data. The terms of the portability, what's complicated that we've seen, and we actually don't know exactly how to solve it, is the fact that the companies that use our platform do not leave reviews for the work of the workers. And it's simply because they use the same person for months sometimes. And it's not shift-based in that way that you work one day at that company, they give you a review, and then you do something else. So when you start working, you check in order to get, of course, the times right. You check out, and then the company approves you, and then can always leave a review. But in 99.99 cases, there's no review left because the shift leader has too much other things at hand that they need to focus on. So what we've engaged in now is that we created a CV creator on the platform. And we're working now to understand what's the motivation for people to actually fill in their experience. So if we have on meploy, we already share 10% of our profits with our workers through a bonus scheme program. So if you complete a shift and if you complete your CV, you actually get around 12 euros as a bonus with your next paycheck if you actually completed that CV.
So do I understand right that CV Creator is a digital tool you created, and workers themselves fill in information about them, but you do not, as Glovo and Roamler, add some metrics from the platform?
And that's the next step of that. So what we're looking into is figuring out how do we become a relevant information on your CV, and how then you can download that CV and to get whatever reviews or positive metrics you have from our site onto your CV, and you can use that for what job applications. And
so you pay people to create their own CV, or you reward them for that. So is this CV also relevant internally for you when clients are selecting?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because many clients, like you have, for example, if you need someone that has a welder, for example, then a company, of course, would like to see before they pick someone, do you actually have welding experience, and from where do you have that experience? So what we've done is that we users can, when they apply to the job, there's requirements. What information do you need to share? For example, it could be a CV, it could be criminal record, and then you give the shift leader permission to view your CV, and that's how it basically works. And then you can remove that permission for the user, so you can see exactly who has the permissions to see what information on your on meploy as a company. And we just need to figure out a smart way of how to translate the data in a favorable way, because there is a challenge in terms of if you go for a shift for one with a company that doesn't have any rebooking opportunities, you shouldn't be penalized on the data on that, versus you go with a company that has 20 shifts for you per month. And how do we then interpret the data in the right way? Do we look at reliability metrics, for example, as you showed up 100% of time, or you showed up only 70% of the times, or do you check in on time? So there are aspects of that that we are looking into, and then figuring out how can we play and role on that CV for the person in their next career step, because we do not believe we are, I mean, we also think we're more of a transition, like any temp agency, a transition to a full-time job. And people are here for different reasons, but like Glovo mentioned, many people come here because they look for flexible income. Some people are here because they can't find anything else. And then of course we need to figure out how to create reliable income streams for them while they're with us, and then how we can help them finding whatever they would like to do.
Great, thank you, Michael. I would like now to open questions for the audience. So please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question to our panelists. If you go down to the reactions in the bottom right corner, you can raise your hand and then ask a question directly. There was a very interesting question in the chat by Willy, a professor at Oxford University. So I'm going to read it out, but Willy, please jump in if you want to clarify it. So Willy was wondering about the strategic worker behavior with data sharing. So the worker may decide to transfer only the good scores and don't transfer the bad scores. So what would be the implications of that for employers' perception, and also the value that those scores then have?
If I can answer that, I think it's like, I mean, I don't know how many CVs I've read and how many job interviews you had where people are overselling themselves. It's just part of life. You always you cherry pick what information you want to present. You don't go on Tinder and write, here are my flaws, right? Take it or leave it. You prepare, you select what's gonna give you the best chances of achieving the next step in your life. And I think people should have the possibility of doing it.
But do you feel like, because obviously you guys are providing some of the metrics, do you feel responsible in a way as gatekeepers? Because in some industry, if you think of ride hailing, for instance, where safety on the road is very important. So imagine Uber driver deciding to only show a metric how communicative he is, and not that he had maybe 2 road accidents.
Yeah, but you can still, there's no way for us to know where that information is going to be presented. So there's another question, for example, in the chat, if we check the validity for the CVs. Of course, we don't completely, because we can't. There are a couple of hundreds of CVs uploaded each day, so you cannot go through it each manually. We have to build it on trust. And the same in the case with the Uber driver. You can always fake information that will paint the brighter picture of the reality.
I think in terms of gig CV, it's a little bit different, because you import all, or you export all, and you see the average scores and the number of tasks you've completed. So I think for gig CV that doesn't really count, but you can of course you can make a fake CV or lie about stuff, and that's it's not that you, for a gig CV it's pretty much covered, right, Martijn?
Yeah, for now not ready, because it generates a PDF and then you can always fake it. But in the next phase, there will be also a QR code on the PDF probably, where you can also, yeah. So then it's really a validated document, so people they can't mess up with it. And as you're right on what you mentioned, it's only a export of the data that is already available on the platform. So that also makes it so that it's really validated data on ratings and transaction, because people they really work via the platform.
And
But are you?
sorry. No, that from Glovo it's almost the same. So like ratings include good ratings and bad ratings, and also to avoid like potential falsification, the certificates are located in a Glovo website, and through a QR code that it's included in the actual certificate, you can check that its validity. So it's almost impossible to fake it. Of course, the information that the courier can add, as from like his past experience or languages or whatever, of course they can invent that. But the data provided by Glovo, it's like that. It can be falsified.
And Maria, didn't you tell me that you guys are looking for some perhaps partner organizations that maybe, you know, could hire these workers, they would be next career step for them. So I guess if you're partnering with some other industry where Glovers could go as a next career step, it's very important that you provide valid information, because then you're also responsible to your partner organization.
Yes, yes, of course. We have other initiatives aligned to this. We have what we call the job board, which is a web page in which we display our partners, like our restaurant partners, jobs offers for couriers that want to find other jobs besides being a courier. In a way, they can use this certificate to show they are former couriers and they have experience. And in a way, it's what you mentioned, like this gives like authenticity, sorry, and it validates their previous experience. Like for it to have like a Glovo stamp makes it more relevant.
Mm-hmm. Great. And there's also a question, well, from George is making the point that it seems like that companies are making it easier for them to access personal data and not involving workers. And George, I think from what we heard today, they are indeed involving workers. So the Gig CV project of Martijn really built up upon a survey of workers. And Glovo just mentioned also they're proactively seeking feedback from workers, if that answers your question. And there is a question from Rodrigo about the privacy of personal data. I'm not sure what that relates to. Anyone has something to add? Any other questions from audience? Please feel free to raise hand. We can take a couple more questions before we need to conclude. So please feel free to ask a question. If you don't know how to raise a hand, you can also just unmute yourself and start speaking. Valeria, please go ahead.
Yeah, hello to everybody, and thank you very much for organizing such very interesting, sessions overall. I have really a question. I'm trying to understand here. It's more than a question; it's a concern from my side. But I want to really listen what particularly the platform, the representative also what the platform they tell on their side. Now, in the light of the experience that you have with these, sharing of data and portability and so forth, and possibilities that are given to workers to find other jobs inside, outside the platform, across different platforms whatsoever, improving your own life and work experience, let's put it this way. Do you see that there are, remember one of you was mentioning the fact that there is a quite monitoring from your side to see that these workers then at the end of the day, they also, are employed by companies. So there is a kind of transfer of employment into companies. Now, I don't know whether this is a general view that comes also from the side of the other panelists. And whether you could give a bit of more information regarding that. In other words, do you see here the fact that workers really are then getting opportunities to find other jobs in companies, employed in companies, or do they remain, kind of gigging and getting gigs, whatever, across platforms? What is the most realistic scenario that you see in front of them? Thank you very much.
So if I jump in here, so my platform employs everybody that works. So we are an employer and we pay the salaries, taxes, pensions, and sick days and all that we have to do according to the law, just like a normal temp agency. It's quite common that temp agencies offer try and hire schemes for companies ahead of them. So taking over the recruitment process, vetting process, onboarding process, and those aspects in order for them to help if they don't have a big HR department. So we do the same, but it's more done in a digital way. And that way, it's quite easy for companies to, for example, to enroll with a person for 3 months time, and then they can hire the person and it's actually free then. And that way we've ticked off one person from unemployment to full-time employment. And yes, if that's what the person wants, of course. There are also many people that don't want to be employed, and they prefer to have the complete flexibility of being a temp worker or a gig worker. I don't know exactly the difference between these two. And they choose simply to plan their week based on their life and what they would like to do. And they don't want to be hired, and they want to have that. For them, the flexibility is more important than the income security, because they believe then they can find different types of work on one or several different platforms.
Thanks, Michael. Would anyone like to respond to Valeria? Anyone else, Whiigert or Maria?
Yeah, from Glovo, the thing is, our couriers are mostly freelancers. They are not our employees. So in a way, what we do is we give them access to these tools, but we are unable to track whether or not they are employed by a third party, because we can't do that. I mean, we can only offer them this this platform, but it's super hard for us to know if they move to other jobs or not.
Yeah, I see. Whiigert, anything from your side, or you're good? Okay, not for now, I'm good. Thanks for these answers, and to Valeria for an excellent question. We have another question from Ayoade, if I'm pronouncing your name right. Please feel free to introduce yourself.
Yeah. My name is Ayoade Ibrahim from Nigeria. I have two questions to ask, because I know much about the Uber and the delivery. And when you are talking about data, for example, if you are working with Uber, you can still work with other platforms simultaneously. Like now, if I open my app for Uber, at the same time, I can open my app for another app companies. And whatever the customer that's coming to my app, I will accept. On that kind of cases, how do you manage the data, and how do you collect the data together? That's number one question. Number two questions is, how did Uber driver use his data to another gig platform? How did it correspond? And how do they accept them as an experienced workers coming from Uber platform to another platform? So these are my two questions that I need more clarification on.
Are you yourself an Uber driver?
Come again.
Are you yourself an Uber driver? Do you drive for Uber?
Yes, I drove for Uber. I drove for Uber in Nigeria.
Well,
yes,
great.
and I'm a unionist. I'm an organizer there too. So I know much about all these data that they are talking about. If you want to go deeper about the data collections, it's beyond what they are explaining here. It's beyond what they are explaining here, because data is the key, and there's the most sensitive part of our industry. So all these things they are explaining here, I see that a peripheral of what really go on concerned to data collections.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm really glad that we also have some of the workers actually join, and we see that how sensitive this topic it is to them, because it really determines their lives and livelihoods and earnings. So would anyone like to respond to this? So I think that Ayoade is worried about the lock-in effects. So how does he switch from Uber to Lyft or another comparable platform, and how is actually the data collected? Whiigert?
Yeah, well, I think we're not a ride-hailing platform, but I do agree on that the sensitivity of the data, and of course we're I think a lot of Dutch platforms, at least, they are open to share the data of their workers, as we're doing, of course, in the GigCV initiative. What was the question, real quick?
I think he was the most concerned about the lock-in effects. Indeed, how can workers switch from Uber to another platform? So your answer is, well, GigCV could be one option.
Yeah. And then it would, and I think that's an interesting question. And then I think it would be required to import the data as well. And I had discussions with Martijn about it. I think when it comes to automatic import of this information. There's really a need of trust between the platform companies, and I don't think that trust is the trust might be there on a personal level, but it's not going to be there yet. In terms of if someone, for example, has a declaration of good behavior, I'm not going to just accept it from another company, because we are of course responsible to check on that as well. So I think there's some challenges ahead.
Yeah, indeed. And if, you know, Uber would make explicit deals with Lyft, let's say, our competitor, they accept their data, then, you know, Uber is basically agreeing for its drivers to be taken over by a competitor. That's why I think some external party like GigCV, what Martijn is doing, can be very valuable. And ensure for that. But I think we're right on time. So Maria, Michael, Whiigert, thank you so much for joining us today for this lively discussion. I learned myself a lot, and I hope others in the audience have as well. Please feel free to continue this discussion in the chat. And now I pass the floor to Martijn to tell us about the future plans with the GigCV and conclude this session. So please stick with us for a few more minutes.